Hi, so it's a while later and I just wanted to check in because I'm on my third book for this video, and quite frankly the first two are spoilers and then the third one is not. So I just wanted to let you know that in terms of spoilers, I don't remember exactly what I said in the intro for the previous one, but in terms of spoilers it's going to kind of just be up to the books. So with each section for each book, I'll tell you if it's a spoiler section or not. So you can still watch the video and just skip certain sections if you don't want to see spoiler review for that specific book. Some books I talk about spoilers, other books I don't, but on the title pages I'll let you know if it's spoilers or spoiler free, and that way you can decide whether or not you want to skip that section onto the next one. So sorry about the confusion with the way I filmed the first two books so far. I can't not have it be spoilers. Anyway, enjoy the video. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. So yeah.
Hi. So I'm sick. I'm in my pajamas and I've been bedridden for I'm going on week 2 right now because we got back 2 weekends ago from visiting family, and on the flight there was a guy with a wet cough that refused to cover his mouth when he was coughing, and he was right in front of us. So I'm sick. I hate reading. And the end of the year is approaching and I refuse to go into 2025 hating books. So I'm starting a new fantasy duology that I have a lot of hope for, and that is The House of Salt and Sorrows. Yeah, I read page 1 a few days ago and I was completely enthralled, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start it, and if this doesn't save reading for me, then I'm going to never read anything ever again. That's a lie. I'll probably just reread Once Upon a Broken Heart to feel something. But let's see if this can save reading for me, because I hate reading right now and it feels like I'm never gonna like books again. So let's do it. And sorry I look a mess. Like I said, I'm very sick and I don't want to put this off and then film all the clips in one day. So let's just go. So I just got to chapter 6, which is on page 53, and so far I'm pretty intrigued. So she thinks her sister was murdered and she wants to prove it. I think that's going to be the main point of this book, the main plot line. But we did also meet who I think is going to be the love interest. His name is Cassius, and he seems to be quite dashing, so I hope he's the love interest. I suppose we'll find out more. Everyone thinks that her family is cursed. I don't know if they are or not. I guess we're going to find out everything. And personally, I'm putting this out there right now, page 52, chapter 6. I think this is going to be an evil stepmother situation. This is the sister who passed away. Morella is the stepmom. I think it's her, but we will see. So far, I am struggling with my attention a little bit, but I think that's a me problem. That's something I've been struggling with other books as well. And in general, I'm pretty excited to keep reading. I'm very intrigued. I was intrigued from, quite frankly, the first page. And yeah, I'm just excited to keep going and reading and see kind of what the point is. Since this is a 12 Dancing Sisters retelling, I am finding a bit hard to keep track of all of the sisters. There's 8 that's currently still alive, and it's hard to keep track of who all of them are because there's so many. That is who I think the evil person is, but we'll see. So I guess I'll just check in a bit. So I'm on page 104, chapter 12. Cassius has yet to show back up, but a dude named Fisher is here, and if he is a love interest and this is a love triangle, I will lose my mind. I will actively lose my mind. But basically what has happened so far since the last update is the little sister Verity can see ghosts, and now Annalie can also see them. So she's seeing her dead sisters. It's weird. I'm still interested, but my concentration issues really is making this hard to read. It's been 2 hours and I've read 30 pages. So I just finished chapter 16, which is on page 152. And so far, to be very honest, I'm I'm bored. And I really don't want to be, but it's been 152 pages and our supposed love interest has only shown up twice and she wants to kiss him so badly, but they've spoken for like 10 minutes in total throughout this entire book. And then he is also just like a little bit suspect because she's like on the other side of the country and they went through a magical door and he's there too at the same time and just isn't answering questions. And honestly, so far we're 152 pages in and nothing aside from them finding and going through a magical door has really happened. The pacing is just incredibly slow, and I mean, we're a decent chunk of the way through the book and it just feels like nothing is really happening, and so I'm kind of disappointed a little bit, not going to lie. I'm about 50 pages away from being halfway. The halfway mark's at page 200, so I'm hoping it picks up soon because this just feels like a long time for nothing to happen.
Hi. So, you saw the clips of me reading House of Salt and Sorrow, so I guess I don't even really need to explain that it went downhill very quickly. I did end up giving the book 1.75 stars, and I'm going to be very honest with you. It should be a DNF because I skipped chapter 24, which starts on page 234, all the way to chapter 36, which starts on page 360. And thanks to some spoiler reviews, I didn't miss a thing. My main issue was that this book was so incredibly boring. Annalee can see ghosts, supposedly, but at 250 pages in, it's only happened about 3 times. She was investigating the supposed murder of her sister for the first, I don't even know how much, does nothing for it, and actually forgets about it multiple times. And we know she forgot about it because she said multiple times, oh, oops, I forgot my sister was murdered. I should probably look into that. And obviously this is a 12 Dancing Sisters retelling, so they find a magical door to go to dances to. Guess how many of those dances and balls we see? We see 1. The rest of them are either summarized or she just doesn't go to them. And it's like, how are you going to write a retelling and not show any of the popular part of a retelling? That's like writing Beauty and the Beast and forgetting that there's a beast. And quite frankly, I didn't find anyone except Cassius, which is the love interest, and Verity, which is the youngest sister, interesting. Camille was unlikable. The stepmother was... and all the other sisters didn't have a personality. Quite frankly, I couldn't tell you who was who. I was so confused on, like, the only sisters I knew was Verity, the creepy baby sister, Camille, which is the bitchy older sister, and then Annalee, which is the second oldest boy crazy sister, which they're all boy crazy. 4 of their sisters have died. Their birth mother has died. They believe that they're cursed, that they're all just going to die, and their biggest worry is the fact that they'd never find a husband. Like, feminism? Where? And then, to make matters worse, Annalee, the main character, wants to make out with Cassius after like 15 minutes of speaking to him during 3 separate occasions. And it's like, what? Why? What do you know about? What's his eye color? What's his favorite color? What's his favorite food? Does he have allergies? She knows nothing about him, and she's like, I want to marry that man. It's crazy and annoying and insta-lovey. But there was also no romance tension because you never saw them together. And this book legit was just her thinking or talking to someone about something that is not related to the plot of the book whatsoever. I picked up a romantasy to get no romance and no fantasy, just a girl thinking. If I wanted to read about a girl thinking, I would just stay in my own brain. And I'm just gonna read what I wrote down in my review because this is what reading the book felt like. Like, this is how the main character read to me. My sister went to a ball last night. I didn't go. I saw my dead sister and ran to my father's room. He was having sex with my stepmom, and now he's mad at me for interrupting them. My dad left for a week on work, but now he's back. We're having a festival party at our house. My dad is drunk and wants to find out why our shoes are broken. I like Cassius. We spoke twice now. Oh yeah, I think my sister was murdered. I should probably look into that. But, oh, wait, we're having a party. I should go help plan that instead. That is how this entire book felt. Does that sound interesting to you? Because it doesn't to me. Also, why'd she have to walk in on her dad and her stepmom? Why was that a thing? There was absolutely no reason to add that. It didn't add to the plot. It didn't add to the suspense. It was just so her father could be annoyed with her before he left on a work trip. Like, you couldn't have done, I don't know, anything else. Couldn't he just have been sleeping and been annoyed? Nobody wants to read that. It's gross and icky, and stop it. And quite frankly, because I did read the ending, I read the last 50-ish pages of the book, it made this read so much disappointing because the end was actually interesting. It was mythology, there were gods. By the way, I called this evil stepmother thing on page 37, and it was an evil stepmother thing. She made like a deal with like a god, and that's why the sisters were dying. It doesn't matter. But the point is, the ending was very interesting. However, in terms of it being a part of the entire book, I think was kind of nonsensical because why was it never talked about before? We learn essentially nothing about the mythology except in those like 100 pages that I skipped, which if the whole thing is going to be about a deal with a god, don't you think we should learn about that god? I don't know. Pretty soon into the book. It's not like it's a series. This book is technically a standalone. The next book is set like 12 years later in Verity's point of view. This shouldn't have been that way at all. But the thing is, it was so interesting, and it was like gods and making deals with them and like everything, and it could have been so interesting, which made this read so much more disappointing because there was so much potential for it to be good. But instead, the author just decided to focus on none of the interesting parts. You know, when you have like a really in-depth book or even movie or show, but then you have like a scene of them just kind of like chatting to like break up the action and the suspense and everything, and just to kind of give the reader a break. So there's like a couple boring scenes where it's just talking with my best friend about something irrelevant, or even talking about something relevant to the romance arc or the plot, but it's just kind of like a little break. This entire book was just made up of those breaks, and all of the interesting, tense, fun things were almost completely left out. Like where the break scene should have been, those interesting scenes were, and it was just her babysitting her pregnant stepmother, essentially, who ended up being evil. That I called, because it's a fairy tale, of course. It's just, there should have been more. There should have been more mythology, more fantasy, more romance, more intrigue. This was just such a letdown, and it fell so flat, and I'm so disappointed because reading the premise, I was like, gothic fairy tale retelling of a Barbie movie. Because let's be real, I think all of us thought of Barbie's 12 Dancing Princesses when we hear of that. You're telling me it's a dark, gothic, fairy tale retelling of a Barbie movie I watched growing up? Of course I'm going to think I like it. And then hearing that it's about curses and that the sisters are dying and she needs to solve the curse, does that not sound intriguing? And then you go through like the magical doors for a bowl? No, but you see one bowl. It's all just taking care of her pregnant stepmother. Needless to say, I'm not on my reading slump, so we're gonna keep going. So, slump's not gone. Still feels like I'll never like reading again, and that I've lost my biggest and greatest love and hobby. So the next book we're picking up is actually the only one left, and the reason for this is I felt like I needed some kind of thriller. I showed my boyfriend every book I own. I told him pick one, and then I told him I think a mystery thriller because I need something gripping and tense, and I need something that I can fall into, and I think it's really well known that mystery thrillers tend to be good options for that. So he picked the only one left because it's set in Maine in the US, and it's in October, which I'm an autumn fiend. And so he was just like, it's a murder mystery set in a very beautiful place in autumn, the season you love. It sounds like something that you would like. So that is what I picked up. Just started it this morning. I'm about 26 pages in, and so far I'm intrigued. I've been wanting to read this book for a while, so I am actually quite excited. But I was also very excited for House of Salt and Sorrows, and we saw how that turned out. So I'm nervous, but I'm excited. I do think a mystery thriller is what I need right now. Hopefully after that, I'm kind of like in a mood to read again and I pick something good. If not, I will just have him pick something again to just help, because he's very good at picking out books for me. So I'm scared, but I'm excited and I'm hopeful, because if there's one thing I am, it's determined to like reading again. I lost reading once in my life and it was miserable, and I don't want to lose it again. And this year is just, it's shitty.
So I've just gotten to page 52, and so far it is pretty interesting. I don't want to say too much since I'm really not that far into the book yet. I'm intrigued. She has made it to the mansion on the cliffside, and she has just met Lenora. This is only the second letter so far that's been written, so very much still at the beginning of the story, and not much interest has happened yet. So far, my only thing is with Mr. Riley Sager. He's kind of a strange author, because when I read his female characters, I can kind of tell that a man wrote them. And at least so far, he hasn't written anything strange about the women characters yet, like how Stephen King would, or something that you would see on like r/men writing women. But it is just interesting because I read the characters and they feel like women written by a man. They don't feel like women written by a woman. So that part I'm not loving, but so far he hasn't done anything strange yet, but we're still quite early into the book, so we will see. I didn't have this problem as much with The House Across the Lake. Hopefully, like, this is where the weirdness is, and it's just because he's not a woman, so he doesn't know how to write a woman that well, and it doesn't turn into one of those weird r/men writing woman moments. But so far, I would say we're starting off well. So I just finished chapter 30, and so far, I'll be honest, I'm a bit bored. For the last about 30 pages, it feels like we're at a standstill, and although progress is being made, it's just incredibly small progress, and it's becoming a bit frustrating to read because I want something to happen that is actually interesting, and I still have a decent amount left. I don't know how many pages this book is, but I suspect it's around 400. I don't know. I just feel like this could have been cut down a little bit because it really doesn't feel like much is happening right now, and I'm just kind of like, can something big happen? Can like a plot twist happen or something, please?
Hi, I finished The Only One Left, and I think I kind of stopped checking in about halfway through because it felt like nothing was happening, and then everything was happening. When everything was happening, I just felt too overwhelmed to check in. I did end up giving this book 3 stars. In terms of how it helped with my slump, it didn't get me out of my reading slump, but it definitely helped me take a big step toward getting out of it. A mystery thriller was definitely what I needed because it hooked me. I was interested to keep going. I'd been wanting to read it for a while, and just like the suspenseful of it kept me wanting to read it. It was definitely a step in the right direction. My boyfriend made a good pick, and I definitely think that, unfortunately, House of Salt and Sorrows was a step backwards, but this was 2 steps forward, so I'm 1 step into getting out of my reading slump. In terms of the actual book, I have so much to say. I have so much to say. It's actually crazy. Like, look at this review for a sec. I wrote all that this morning. There's nothing particular that I liked. I just enjoyed the experience of reading it. And then the reason it's a 3 stars is because of things that I didn't like rather than the things that I did, if that makes sense. But my first gripe with this book is that I don't think it should be labeled as a thriller. I was not thrilled. I didn't really feel anxious or at the edge of my seat except in that last 20%. This felt to me much more of a mysterious suspense lit fic novel almost. There was definitely suspense and mystery and intrigue. However, a thriller is like one step down from a horror to me. It's like, no, I should still be anxious and creeped out and maybe even a little scared. I'm just not like terrified. There was no point where I was feeling anxious or like, you know, like it was kind of just like, okay, so what happened? Maybe that's a me thing. I don't know. I think that's up to everyone else to decide for themselves. And then I feel very conflicted about the plot twists because about 40% of the plot twists I did guess, but then the remaining 60%, probably like 50 of that percent, I didn't guess, but I got very close to guessing. So I would say, oh, it's like a bluish purple, and then it ends up just being blue. I got very close to guessing that it felt like I got it right, but then like I didn't, which was kind of like, I don't know, when you pick up a mystery thriller, suspense novel, you want the plot twists to get you, and then when they don't, at least for me, I feel a little disappointed, so that was a shame. And it's not that it's a bad book, because the mystery was good and I enjoyed it and I liked waiting to find out. Like, I liked how it went, but just like the only two plot twists that really actually shocked me genuinely is the fact that Mrs. Baker is Lenora and then Lenora is Virginia. But like the whole time, like from the very beginning, I was like, I don't like Mrs. Baker. There's something off about her. The other thing that truly like actually shocked me, and I think that's mostly just because I didn't pay attention to his name, is that Ricky is Patrick McDerry, who is Kit's father. Like that's the only other one, and that's probably just me not paying attention to him because he didn't really have a role. But in general, it was a decent read. It did keep my interest for the most part. However, I do think that the pacing is quite slow up until the 80% mark. It takes place over a very short period of time, but the book is about a caretaker taking care of a paralyzed woman, so as you would imagine, there's not much really happening aside from like the house tilting and her hearing things, and even that wasn't like overly adrenaline rushing type of thing. It was slow for me up until the 80% mark, and then it picked up speed. Like it felt like things were happening like that. It was jarring, honestly. And then I really enjoyed like the typewriter notes throughout the book, and I really like that you don't find out everything until almost the very end. The story definitely like makes you wait to find out why, what happened, how does everything fit together, who did it. Like I think we found out who did it in the very last typewriter, and then after that there's a couple more but not related to the story. I really liked those elements. I thought it was interesting, and I also just kind of liked that it felt like a dual timeline, and like the dual timeline just kind of gives you snippets to understand more. I don't know, but I liked how it was done, and it was just like a little nice exciting break from the mundaneness of Kit taking care of Virginia. I do have to say though, Ricky, Kit's father, his plot was strange to me. He just felt like strangely villainous, like cartoony villainous at some points, which made it almost feel like he had a personality switch, which isn't really possible considering we did not get to know him at all. Like during the first parts of the book, he doesn't speak to her. We don't get to know him at all. And then all of a sudden, he's tiptoeing into Hope's End, trying to strangle Virginia and finding out that he's like committed multiple murders and this and that and this and that. Everything's kind of being explained through villain monologuing, and the fact that he was the reason the mother took the pills and everything. Like it just felt very strange hearing all of that. By the way, lots of villain monologuing in this book. Her father's personality was just weird, and then it ended with him and Lenora just walking into Hope's End, which is like concaving and falling into the ocean, and just sitting there and like essentially just ending it all. Lenora's reasoning was, I left this place, now it's Virginia's turn. And same with her father, he's just kind of like, I was a bad man, I did things, but I hope you can forgive me. And then he walks in. It's like, what? Why? That's so unsatisfying. And their actions didn't even really make sense to me. And then lastly, plot-wise, one thing I didn't understand was the book ended with Virginia gallivanting all over the world with Jesse and Kit. I just don't know where the money comes from, because it was stated multiple times by Mrs. Baker, Lenora, that all their money was used on repairs for Hope's End. So I'm like, how are you traveling around the world? How do you have a villa in wherever the place she died is? And like, it just didn't make sense to me. Where did the money come from? Did I miss something? Is that a plot hole? Where is the money coming from? That was strange to me a little bit. That's kind of just how this book went for me. I'm definitely not out of my reading slump, so this video is gonna keep going. I don't know what I'm going to read next. I'm gonna take a little bit of a break and read a book for a different video. One step forward. So, woo! So I just started the next book for this challenge. It's Rise and Divine by Lana Harper, and this is the 5th and final book in the Witches of Thistlegrove series. I've been looking forward to this one since the previous one, In Charm's Way, came out, and as you can see, I've started chapter 1, which is about 30 minutes into the audiobook, and so far it seems witchy, ghosty, ghoulish, and I'm excited because I think this is what I need next. I just need something light. I'm excited, and also this is just another series that I get to finish once this book is done, so I'm excited to keep going, and I'll probably check in a little bit. Hi, so I just reached the halfway point with Rise and Divine, and honestly, I am kind of bored. Like, it's just not hitting for me. It's falling very flat, and in general, I'm just not really liking it that much. However, I am interested in the plot, so I'm definitely going to finish it, but I'm going to binge it in the next couple of days so that it can be done by the end of this week. There's just like a lot of flirting happening, so the book kind of feels overly sensual. It just is making it difficult to like, quite frankly. And yeah, it's I don't want to say it's bad, but just like this particular book for some reason feels just different from the rest of the series, and I'm not really liking it that much. The flirting to me is bad. The actual voice actress, the way she does voices bothers me. Like, in general, this entire book I'm not really enjoying that much, which is a shame. It's not pushing me back into a reading slump because I'm at least interested in the plot. That's where I'm at. I'll check in once I've finished, and yeah.
Hi, so I'm back. I finished Rise and Divine, and I have mixed opinions. So I did actually end up giving Rise and Divine 2.5 stars. This was my least favorite book in the Witches of Thistlegrove series. That is a lot harder to say out loud than inside of my brain. I've never said the series name out loud before, so that was interesting. So this was my least favorite in the series. First and foremost, I found the romance to be quite lacking. Usually I'm not a hater of the second chance trope, but I'm also not a lover of it either. If it's there, it's fine, but I don't yearn for it either. However, I didn't feel the supposed love between the two FMCs, and it just felt like, not that they didn't care for each other, but again, I didn't feel that romantic love between them at all. It really kind of just felt like they were very horny for each other, if I'm going to be just completely candid. They were supposed to have that I would lay down my life to save you type of love for each other, and I didn't feel that. There wasn't an overtly large amount of spice in this book. The first spicy scene is about halfway through, so it's not like it was too spicy, but I didn't feel that emotional connection between them, and that kind of killed it because, again, it's second chance. The one is scared to get back with the other, whereas the other is like groveling to be back and begging to be back. But you don't feel that love. It just feels like they just have an attraction toward each other. You don't feel that emotional connection, and that really kind of ruined the romance for me because, I mean, if you've been here for more than 3 videos, you know that that emotional connection really is what I look for. I don't particularly care about spice. So that was very disappointing. Again, it's a gay witchy romance, so when the romance falls flat, it's just quite defeating of the purpose, I guess you could say. And then in terms of the plot, that also felt lacking. Before, it would either be romance or plot or both that I got attached to in the series, whereas with this one, both were just lacking. And in terms of the plot, it just felt very info dumpy, because obviously there's a whole mystery going around. It's Halloween time there, and something happens at one of the shows, and so they have to cast a spell on the normies, mundanes, whatever the non-witch humans are called. Something goes wrong with that spell, and they find someone who seems to have been affected wrongly by that spell and have to help that person. That person ends up being a part of the mystery. What happens is, as they're like trying to figure this person out and trying to solve the mystery and trying to connect all the dots, the thing that went wrong the first time happened again, and they kind of solved it momentarily, and then someone suddenly just has all of the answers, and it's just kind of like, oh, this is why it's happening, this is how it's happening, this and this and that and that and this. It's just rapid fire, an entire chapter of like, well, why is it happening? Because of this. Well, who is this? Well, they're this. Well, what do we do about it? You have to do this. Can I do that? Yes. Will I die? Probably not. And just all of the questions that have been asked throughout the entirety of this book gets answered because one person suddenly knows all of the answers, and I found that to be very anticlimactic. Like, it feels like they didn't have to work to solve the solution whatsoever. It just felt very villain monologue-y, but the opposite of just kind of like, here's an entire chapter where it's just exposition of explaining the entire mystery's answer to you, and then we're gonna have like one more fight scene, the main couple's gonna get together, and then end of book. I don't have any suggestions for what could have happened differently. However, surely there must have been something else that the author could have done rather than just info dumping the entire solution of the plot. Like, I did not enjoy that whatsoever. And so that is why I ended up giving this book as low a rating as I did. In general, I'm sure you're thinking, well, this must have set you back into your reading slump. And shockingly, no. Even though I didn't really enjoy the book, I was looking for witchy, darker vibes, and this definitely did deliver on like 70% of that, which was nice. So I still got like the vibes that I was hoping for. And then in addition to that, for a different reading vlog, I was actually reading a very highly anticipated book. So I did take a little bit of a break from this video for a tiny amount, but I was listening to this, I was physically reading the other book, so I was tandem doing it. That book ended up being a 5-star, and one of those books where you're mourning the fact that it's over. So the fact that I finished that and read that at the same time as this helped me not stay stagnant, actually still helped me walk toward out of the reading slump, even though if I hadn't been reading that book, this probably would have put me deeper into it. So I'm very grateful that that happened, because I am actually closer to being out of my reading slump. In general, I'm relieved, I'm happy, and we're doing well. I'm not yet sure what the next book I'm going to pick up in this video is going to be, and I'm not sure how many I'm going to pick up after this. However, I do think that the next book might be the final book or the second final book, because I'm very, very close to being out of my reading slump. Like, I'm at a point where I'm actually enjoying reading and looking forward to picking up a book again. We're almost at the stretch. We might be approaching the final book soon. I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited nonetheless, and I'm so ready to fully be out of this reading slump. So, yeah. Hi. So I'm actually here to say goodbye. I was going to read one more book for this challenge because I felt like I was very close to being out of my slump, but I took another little break because there was a couple of different books that I wanted to just read on my own time before continuing with this challenge. And I ended up realizing while I was reading those other books that I'm excited to read again, I'm motivated to read again. Reading doesn't feel like a chore anymore, and that this video actually did help, and I did get out of my
reading slump. So yeah, I'm just here to say goodbye. It was actually really a wonderful experience doing this, and I'm very, very happy that I did. It was challenging finding books that I think would take me out of a slump, but dedicating my time and energy toward picking up books that would help me for that, and putting off books that I really wanted to read until I was ready to want to reading them. That was a bad sentence, but you get what I mean. It really did help, and so I'm just very happy that I'm finally out of it. And yeah, if you are in a reading slump, I am so sorry. Do what I did, pick up books that you think will get you out of it and save the books that you need to be good for after you're out of it. Let me know what your favorite way of getting out of a reading slump is, because tips are always necessary in this community. I think everyone is collectively in a reading slump at some point. So let me know what you do when you're in a reading slump, and if you think that I went about it the right way or if I should have done something differently. If you like me or my videos, I would really appreciate a like, comment, and subscribe if you feel like it. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Bye.